Up first, we've got Margaret Grundstein. Margaret is the author of Naked in the Woods, My Unexpected Years in a Hippie Commune, and she's here to share an excerpt from her new intimate memoir, which she describes as a coming-of-aging memoir called Bargains. Hi, Margaret. How are you today?
Wonderful. Really happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, we're happy to have you.
Should I just jump in?
Yeah, let's do it. I'll go ahead and put
Okay.
you on spotlight.
Okay.
Nope, not John. There we go.
Okay. All right. That I'm going to be doing a short reading today from my newest collection of essays that form a memoir of my 70s, each essay delving deeply into different facets of loving. And so I'm inviting everyone, please join me as we enter into fantasy, romance, aging, gender, and all the richness of life. So here we go. My longing for romance struck unexpectedly while I was at a surprise birthday party celebrating June, the 90-year-old mother of my friend Cara. 15 of us, our ages hovering around 70, awaited her arrival. Happy birthday, we called joyously as June, decked out in leather pants, modestly high heeled boots, and an elegant mohair sweater rounded the corner. While Cara said to her mother, I noted a disturbance opposite me. John, almost a double for Elaine's handsome boss on Seinfeld, was trying to catch June's attention. You're looking great for someone who's 90, he called out. Cara stiffened. No qualifiers allowed. Apologize to her, she demanded. John walked to the head of the table and settled next to June. I watched riveted. June turned to face him. He leaned over and whispered in her ear. She straightened and nodded her head. Next, June said a few words to John, lifting her index finger and looked like a gentle admonition. Then she lowered her hand and waited. The tableau remained. Nothing shifted until abruptly John raised his arms, wrapped them around June, and planted a big, full-lipped, head-tilting, nose-angle kiss right smack on her 90-year-old lips. They held the pose, a parody, a pretend dramatic reconciliation. But deep in the kiss, for one very brief moment, a tick of a talk, a give of a muscle, I sensed June relax, her chest rising as her head fell back a notch. I experienced June, unstaged, entering another dimension, the electricity of a swoon, an old screen world where the women we loved were glamorous and their men leaned over them. And there, on the projection screen of my mind, June and I merged. We were Elizabeth Taylor, Grace Kelly, and Ingrid Bergman. Our hair was black, blonde, curled, and coiled. Our necks were long and smooth. We were women dressed in satin gowns, gauzy wraps, sassy peplums, high heels, and hats. Ours was the movie where fireworks exploded when lips touched on the Riviera, where Tara burned, where hearts melted. June, or was it I, had entered into romance, the junction of gossamer and dreams. We were one, and I trembled in the excitement. Suddenly, June pushed all 5 feet one of herself upright, her red lipstick smeared. She looked around wildly, wagging her crimson red forefinger. No tongue, she announced. No tongue. I told him, no tongue. Reality and all its assault of nature had staked its claim. She was done. Pretend was okay, penetration too real. But I, thrilling in the angst and longing of my surrogate kiss, yearned to stay. So that's a little brief from one of the essays.
Wow, that's really a fun story. Thanks for sharing that with us.
My pleasure.
Wow, wow. I love your writing, and I love the way you read that. It just really put me in the moment. Great job. So,
Thank you.
Can you tell us like a little bit of what inspired you to write this memoir?
Well, I'm 81. When I turned 70, I started writing to work out, I was dating, I was trying to work out issues around that, and then a friend passed away, and I started just writing about the experience of the richness of life, the complexity of life, the liveliness of life, even at the end stages. And so I had essays around dating, I had essays around friendship, I had essays about loss, I have essays about family, about loving myself, and then ultimately about as I get closer to the end of my 70s, realizing, the end, feeling the end more, breathing over my shoulder here, and
Mhm.
having to, so that's a long answer, but and I also wanted to be part of the dialogue for my generation as we face aging.
Yeah. How would you say all of that hippie commune experience has kind of played into this new kind of project of being able to look back on your life and sort of work through these kinds of questions and these new life stages? Do you feel
Well,
like it helped prepare you for it?
well, every part of life builds on the next life,
Mm.
and and the commune book was a coming of age book, was in my 20s, late 20s, at a time when of upheaval and excitement and joining into that. And this is a coming of aging, so they're kind of
Hmm.
bookends. And there's also a part in it I own, and was director of a preschool, still own, but it was director for about 40 years. And once I left the commune, that became almost a different kind of communal experience, in that every day you just are connected with this community of fabulous teachers, wonderful parents, and children. And it was a little Garden of Eden in its own, just as what we tried to do during my hippie days.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Can you, without, I don't know if it'll give away a bunch of the book, but can you talk about the title Bargains and a little bit behind the meaning behind that?
Well, there's one essay towards the end where I watch my dad. I go to visit my dad, who's had a heart attack, and he's, well, not too much older than I am now. And I
Mm.
see him, we go to a grocery store, and he loves bargains, and he gets into one of the carts, and I can't believe I see my dad tootling around a grocery store in a cart, and it pulls at my heart. And I go off to the fresh, gorgeous vegetables, and he goes off to the bin of the nearly new, the slightly used, the rejects, and he's happy as a lark. And we go through this, and in this essay, I follow him through all sorts of things. But in the end, I realized that he made a bargain. That he was still alive. He may have been diminished, but he chose to go out to the grocery store. He chose to be still thrilled by his day-old apples and his slightly dry bread, and he chose to grab it. And he made a bargain he made a choice. And every day there's bargains, to be made. And
Mm.
getting older, and life is about making certain bargains with yourself and the realities around you.
Hmm. Yeah. No, that's great. I love that.
I think this is very inspiring, and I wish we had a heck of a lot more time to talk more. One thing you said earlier that struck me, and that's dating. How is dating different now than it was, in past decades for you? That's really fascinating.
Well, first, dating at 30, you feel you're putting a better you on the market. That's how it feels, to be crude about it. And then, but what I learned is, through a fabulous partner, um, we bring who we are. And also dating, I have one essay where, you meet the same eccentricities, the same odd people, the same odds of finding someone who matches you. And then there's the people that are still pretending to be young. And
Mm.
there's the guy who tries to get out of his low-sung sports car, but as he says, my back, I can't take it. So there, and you think, okay, and there's still and you're never too old to be a teenager. You still have all the projections, and your heart goes pitter pat, and you hope and you dream and all that.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Well, as we're kind of coming to a close, what can you tell us about where people can find you? Can you tell us more about some other projects that you want to make sure to point people towards?
That I think I have a page through this, that the author page. I
Yep.
am on Instagram. I'm trying to use Instagram a little differently, and I'm trying to build the story of some of the different parts of the essays visually, and with excerpts from the book on Instagram. And then I am on Medium. I have a website, margaretgrunstein.com. I'm also a photographer, and so I think some of the photographs in the book, the Naked in the Woods, and then photographs I've done on aging. I've really been doing it. I did a lot of photos exploring the aging body. So Instagram, Medium, Substack, Facebook, the website, and here.
Sounds great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Margaret. I really appreciate you coming by.
Thank you.
That was fun.
Okay, thank you so much.
Bye. All right, let's keep the good times rolling. I'm going to go ahead and bring Cher on stage. Cher Terais is a two-time #1 best-selling Black romance author and world traveler. She is joining us today to demonstrate how to decorate your own author table. She's also going to discuss multicultural love stories, preview her book Tempest in Tulum, and will be available to answer any questions the audience may have about Black love. How are you doing today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Okay, I have to ask about your hat first off.
Yeah.
That is phenomenal. Is that like a conductor's hat that's made out of mirrors?
Well, you told me I could dress up for Halloween, so I'll be your captain on a voyage of wanderlust romance.
I love it. I love it. I went with live stream security personally.
Love it.
Well, yeah. Talk us through a little bit about what you want to go through today, Cher.
Absolutely. I'll jump right in. So, as you've already introduced me, I'm Cher Terais, and I'll be your captain. I'll be your captain on a journey of wanderlust romance. So, I'll start with talking about what that is. Wanderlust romance. Well, first and foremost, I'm an author of wanderlust romance, and they're a sequence of stories that center perfectly imperfect women, specifically Black women and multicultural women, and the men who chase them around the world. So again, thank you for having me here. And I'm going to talk about just that, a small chat about the magic of storytelling, Black love, and how we can work together to kind of amplify our voices in these spaces. So when I first started writing, I did have one goal, and that goal was to be able to tell engaging stories about women who look like me, women who have stories in all of our complexities, strengths, and vulnerabilities. These are CEOs, these are MMA fighters, as you'll discover in my book, Tempest in Tulum. These are women who are dreamers and also hopeless romantics. But at the same time, we're not just strong women, right? We stumble, we feel, and sometimes hurt very deeply. And we also still have room to grow. And so there has been a challenge, of course, in Black and multicultural romance, especially when it comes to traditional publishing. So I've taken the indie route because what I didn't want are my stories or anyone who writes stories like me to have our narratives kind of marginalized or put into a box. With that being said, social media has been a great help to help us get out of that box. But it also has its own challenges. And think algorithm, think having to try to do these trends that sometimes can feel a little bit silly, when really all we want is to reach an audience who wants to hear their story, my story, our stories, our readers. And there are audiences for all of us. But these readers just really want to hear stories that they can see themselves in, just like I wanted to write those stories that are rich, nuanced, and just overall good stories, right? So as you can see, I was going to put this table together, but I felt like it would be a little too distracting. So I went ahead and did it in advance, because I feel like one of the ways that we can reach a broader audience, especially at festivals like Bookfest, right? We can create tables and spaces that are engaging and inviting for the readers to come in and learn about our stories and actually just immerse themselves in what it is we're offering as authors. So I'll start with my table. It was put together very intentionally to talk about the whimsicalness of what romance and wanderlust romance is to me. So over here on the left, you'll see some vintage luggage. And over here on the right, I of course had to have a world globe because it's indicative of the nature of the stories that I tell. They're stories that will take you all around the world. Excuse me, all around the world. Also on my table, just in the theme of wanderlust and romance, you see the gold bust of a young lady with flowers in it. And that again just talks about the strength and the richness of the female characters that are in my books. And of course, because it's wanderlust means we're going on a journey, right? So I would be remiss if I didn't have the airplane on the table. And as an invite into the space so you can learn more about wanderlust romance and the books that I write, of course, I have to offer you a treat, some little chocolates that you can also get the book cover on each one. And it's a little bit more than just a piece of chocolate. It also has a QR code so you can scan it and get more information about the books, even if you aren't interested in learning right now. I will send you away with that.
That's the best, like, memento I feel like you can give someone.
Some really candy, cool. Chocolate.
Yeah. I mean, chocolate is universal. I mean, that's
absolutely
just everybody. They'll stick around just to get the chocolate, right?
Take the chocolate and scan the QR code later.
I love the QR code on the chocolate. That is just a stroke of genius. I mean,
yeah,
you know, and then you're not littering either.
Briefcases.
That's right. And let's just talk about technology for a second. You know, you only have a few minutes. I only have a few minutes to engage with you all as the readers, right? And I want to do everything that I can to get your attention, engage your interest. So not only do I do things like QR codes on the piece of a chocolate, but I also want to make it as easy for you to get my books as possible. So of course, keeping in theme with QR codes, you gotta have a way for people to pay. And these days, it's not about cash all the time. Sometimes credit cards either. Sometimes it's a Venmo QR code or a Cash App QR code or just the easiest means for people to make that purchase, right? So let me tell you about the books. Again, I write wanderlust romance, so stories about perfectly imperfect women and the men who chase them around the world. So of course I sell books on this table. I have to have a means to display those books. So right now I have two bookshelves. One that has my book, Bali Blue, the first book that I wrote in the Wanderlust romance series. It's about Kendrick Kekoa and Rion Carson and their enemies to lovers romance with the beautiful Bali blue waters as the backdrop. My second book, Maison de Mara. A lot of people think Mara is the female main character's name, but no, it is actually the immersion into the Maasai culture in Kenya on the Maasai Mara. But really, what I want to talk about is Tempest in Tulum, which is my third and final book in the Wanderlust romance series. Tempest in Tulum is a high-stakes sports romance that is about Delia, who is an architect by day and an MMA fighter by night. And then enters Okido, who is Kenyan-born but London-raised and is ex-MI6. Think Idris Elba or Black James Bond, if you will. But these two are on a whirlwind romance that'll take you from Atlanta to the exotic setting of Tulum, Mexico. And again, all of my stories have that international flavor, but I also write those stories that take you from places like Atlanta and other places like it to some of the most exotic, stunning places around the globe. So again, I invite you all to come with me on a journey of wanderlust romance around the world. And I'll hand it back over.
I love it. Let me ask you a question here. So you're going all around the world. Do you have to actually visit those places to get like research to write your books?
I personally travel to every place that I write about. So yes. The cool thing is I went to Bali for the first time in 2018, started writing that book. I went to Kenya in 2022, started writing this book. Tulum at the end of 2022, and I leave for Turkey in about 20 days. So another story loading.
Wow. And you get to write those off on your taxes then, right?
I do. That's a wonderful thing to bring up. Yes, it's kind of a cheat code. You know, we all have to do research as authors. If we want to tell authentic stories, absolutely. And yes, the perk is it gets to be written off on my taxes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that is phenomenal. What has so far has been your favorite place to visit that you were writing about? Or
I have to say Bali. Well, another story that's also loading is Paris. So I haven't written that story yet, but it is the second. Well, it is the first that'll come out after this series is completed. But I have to say Bali is not only the my favorite place that I traveled to write the book, but I've also been back and I want to go back again. So yes, Bali.
Nice. Yeah.
is that also the place that has the best food?
Not only the best food, but the most inexpensive, good food I've ever eaten in my life. And when I say inexpensive, I mean like eating for 50 cents.
Oh, I love that.
Whoa, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you like ramen, oh my God, you can get ramen from a street vendor for like 50 cents. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That sounds like
And
paradise.
not just top ramen. I'm talking about stir fried with eggs and vegetables, everything. Yes, the
Yeah.
9 yards. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, we're running out of time here, but is there anywhere that you can send our listeners who want
Absolutely.
to learn more about you and your projects?
Absolutely. And you know what? I don't know if it's okay if I mention it, but you guys have a Bookfest gift bag, right?
Yeah. Yep. And that we're going to be
Perfect.
announcing that at the end of this. Yep.
Awesome. Well, every one of you, if you get that gift bag, you will not only get a free dramatic reading of the first chapter of my book of Tempest and Tulum. I say dramatic reading because it has the bells and whistles, the narration, sound effects, music, everything. And if that tempts your tummy, then you also get a 40% off coupon on the pre-order as long as you get it before November 14th, which is the and last but not least,
Oh,
I want to invite all of them to Share in Wonderland, which is the release party for Tempest and Tulum. All of that in the gift bag, but you can find me on all social media. Just search for Cher Terais.
all right. That sounds great. Thank you so much, Cher. I really appreciate you joining us, and I hope
Thank
you have a
you.
great day.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Awesome. Okay, so we are going to roll right into CC Robinson. CC, well, CC is here to read from. First of all, I feel like you are trying to beat me right now by being the police when I was security.
Okay, I just want to say that we did not plan this.
Yeah.
No planning was involved, but I thought, I could either be a rebel or a police officer because
Yeah.
both of them go with my book. And I was like, everybody likes a villain.
Yeah.
And
Now that
unfortunately, in
we're
my book, yeah, it's villains.
yeah. Well, now that we're here, we can finally talk to John. Cece is here to read from Divided, her young adult dystopian novel, which combines the world building of The Last of Us with the relentless action of the Hunger Games, set in a future America where we are segregated. Hi, Cece. This is such an interesting premise, and I'm so excited to hear more about it.
Awesome. Well, I'll get to the reading. I had to take off my
Perfect.
sunglasses so I could actually see. Anyway. This was the epitome of death and destruction, and Marcos finally understood what Abuela had said. They might be safe as a nation, but they were no longer free. People had died fighting Martin, fighting his iron-fisted control. All the broadcasts giving them an extra few rations here or a new item in market that no one could afford there. And for what? So Martin could keep his power? And now the draft. Marcos sank onto the broken street and held his head in his hands. He felt stuck, powerless. Why did he try so hard at school or in the drivers? He would be risking his life traveling between cities as a driver, only for a glimpse of someone from another area, never time to chat. There must be more to life than going along with the farce of freedom and prosperity Martin preached. Marcos didn't know how to fix this, didn't know if he wanted to. His shoulders slumped. Tears of frustration tumbled to the ground. Perhaps he should flee southwest to the independent Republic of Texas. Never mind, Marcos didn't know the way and had no food to survive such a long journey. Maybe dying while escaping was preferable to living a lie. Sweat cooled on his neck and chills overtook him. Marcos had only one reason to keep living, to keep fighting: Flavia. His sister had innocent dreams of finishing high school, becoming a teacher, and raising a family, and he could help her achieve them. Maybe seeing her happy would make a life of bondage worth it. What could one person do to stop Martin? Nada, nothing at all. Never before had Marcos felt so powerless. Huffing out a breath, he stood. He pointed towards Queenstown and started walking. He never should have left. Even with the draft hanging over his head, if he didn't return, would they question Flavia? Would she get in trouble for his actions? He couldn't bear that thought. Marcos crept through the woods, jumping at every sound, though most were probably squirrels or chipmunks scavenging for food, just like inside the city. Moonlight brightened and the woods thinned. Glancing left and right, Marcos cursed. A 20-foot high glass and barbed wire topped wall, vibrating with an invisible but still impenetrable sonic barrier, taunted him. He was lost. No Havana or the cemetery's chain link fence in sight. Shouts filled the air, and Marcos scrambled backward to the safety of the woods. He sprinted toward where he thought Havana was, but a warm body pinned him face down in the hard ground. A nightstick crashed to the ground next to his head. Marcos, the Havana Escuela boxing champion, squirmed and flailed, landing punches and knee jabs on the man on top of him. A cold circle pressed against his temple. "Move again, and I'll shoot," a terse voice said.
That's awesome. Okay, we actually just got a question in from the audience.
Yeah.
So I'm going to lead off with that.
Mm-hmm.
It says, your world building is inspired by one of the best game adaptations on TV, The Last of Us. Are you inspired by video game environments at all?
Oh, for sure. I don't play a lot of video games. I would call myself a YouTube lurker. I like watching other people play video games, and I have 3
Yeah.
Gen Z kids, so I've definitely done my fair share of watching while they did everything, while they built worlds, while they played. And so I would say the action and how video games have incorporated storylines throughout has definitely been an inspiration. Probably more so, though, was the classic or the YA dystopian novels of the early 2000s. When I read Hunger Games and Divergent, it really made an impression on me. And I remembered back to my youth and reading things like Brave New World in 1984, watching A Clockwork Orange and kind of being traumatized by that. Animal Farm. And thinking dystopian is really the perfect mode for playing with societal issues. And so I like the video game setting for the action orientation, but I also liked the classic dystopian literature for its political commentary value.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great response.
Yeah. I think my question for you is, why this story and why now?
Well, why now? Have you looked around our world?
Yeah.
We're a little divided. And I started writing this back in 2012. So I feel like back then people asked me that more because we were sort of, we'd elected a Black president and we're healed, right? No, we're not healed. And I had an all-night dream where I saw our nation divided up after a civil war, and where I actually met all 4 of my main characters. And I just had this burning desire that I needed to tell their story. And it's, a lot of authors talk about this, how their characters bug them. Marcos is the one who bugged me. If I didn't write often enough, he would appear in my dreams. He'd be like, "I'm still in bondage. I need your help." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So it was really a passion and a burning desire to get these books out that motivated me to write and to learn how to write fiction.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's unbelievable. So you really saw it all in a dream. Wow.
Yeah, not every little detail. I would say the broad brush. I saw the world. I saw the war that sent us there. The decimation of our biggest cities, taking out all our leadership, our command military, and then crashing our world. I saw all that. I actually, this book, Upheaval, is the prequel where I kind of paint that picture of the story of the setup for the world, and then Divided is set 45 years after that. So I did see it in much more of a broad stroke. There was a lot of work that had to happen, though. As anyone who's ever written a book knows, you gotta put the hard work in.
Whoa, wait! You have to work on it.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Nobody ever told me that. That's why it's never worked out.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I think. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, John.
I was just going to comment that I think it's kind of, prophetic on your part that, you wrote this book and it seems like elements of it may even be, coming toward being true in some ways.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
Back when I first, I'll just take one element that is, for me, when I first conceived of it, was more science fiction than science, the sonic element of the walls. I did not know this, but in recent years, I've just learned this over the last several months, redoing research on this. There's a lot of development around sonic technology as riot control and crowd control, nonviolent crowd control. And so it's not that big of a leap to jump into the wall being reinforced with sonic technology.
Yeah. And as we're kind of coming up near the end here, anywhere that you would maybe try to point people towards for getting more information about your work and your projects?
So, of course, my website, ccrobinsonauthor.com, and I see a question that's popped up in our chat. I'm not sure if everyone can see that, about me getting any blowback for writing this story as a white woman, given that I POVs from 4 people that I'm not part of their ethnicity, including a young white teenage boy. Obviously, I'm not a teenage boy. And yes and no, because I did a lot of work and I did engage with different people of those ethnic groups to read and to help with characterization. I did dozens and dozens of hours of interviews. And so I actually write about that in an article, and that's posted on my website if that person wants to know a little bit more about my process of what I did, so that I wasn't misappropriating or dishonoring people. Because I think when you have a message like this, it's the last thing I wanted to do.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you saying that. I didn't catch that before, so I'm happy you did.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Cece, I really appreciate you coming by. And any last message you want to leave with people? We got just a few seconds left.
Stay united, not divided.
I love that. All right. I hope you have a good one, and we'll see you later.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thanks.
All right. And we are going to move on along to Russell Little. Pull him up here. Russell is a practicing attorney and the author of the book Murder by Storm and Murder for Me. He is here to describe living through a hurricane and consider how they could potentially hamper criminal investigations. And
before we get started,
I want you to tell them, because I think we're going to tell them a similar thing.
I have to ask you guys something. I think what you two are really disguised as is the CIA dudes in an old Beavis and Butthead episode. There's the 2 CIA guys in the old episode. You guys are identical to it, and you're acting like it too. So are you Beavis and Butthead guys?
Yes.
Is that what you are?
Yeah. You're not the first person who have asked me if I've been Beavis and Butthead now grown up. So it's probably true, even though they've probably mind erased me.
You weren't Beavis and Butthead. You were the CIA guys in the episode.
Oh, the CIA guys in the Beavis and Butthead.
Right.
Got it.
That's who you are.
Wow.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey,
that's pretty cool.
Hey, Russell, what's going on there? You got any secrets you're trying to sell to the overseas?
Oh, I know, right? And I did the hat thing just like everybody else.
Good, yeah, we need the hats. The gentleman needs a hat.
I'm not really a joiner or a group guy, so it's kind of a challenge for me. Okay. I've been a divorce attorney and a criminal attorney for 40 years. And I'm in the mountains of Georgia now, but I lived in Houston and rode out 5 different hurricanes. And the last one was Harvey, where it came slowly toward the city. It creeped toward the city. And I lived in a high-rise downtown. Some of the Rockets players were my neighbors. And it was right across the park from when Harvey sat on top of Houston for 5 days and we got 52 inches of rain. It's where they took all the refugees. And I spent the week helping them and going around the city during the hurricane, helping people. And you see things you can't believe. And if you didn't see it yourself, you wouldn't believe it could happen, like a manhole blow off and water fountain up through the manhole 2 stories. It's just an incredible sight. And I write murder thrillers, and I wanted to write about all these incredible things I saw. And so I put that in the book. So it's kind of appropriate. I'm over here in Georgia. The hurricanes followed me to Georgia, and that's what my book's about. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty terrible. But, that hurricane, even though it was an awful thing, it was the most important part of my life, except for raising my kids. Because I got to help strangers that I didn't know. And you would see it all over the cities. People helping strangers they didn't know. They didn't care what race they were, what political belief they had. They just helped them because they needed help. And it's a wonderful thing. It's a terrible thing. And it's awful that it takes such terrible things to get there. But it's also a wonderful thing. And so I wanted to write about it. I put it in the murder mystery. Also, hurricanes are a very good time to commit crime.
Yeah, actually, we just got a question from our audience asking if you thought a villain could intentionally plan a murder to take place in a hurricane as a way to kind of obscure their role in it.
Not only did it occur to me, I wrote about it. Because when a hurricane takes 2 weeks to get to a city, but the whole city knows that the hurricane's coming, you have plenty of time to plan.
Yeah,
and let me tell you, police are busy during a hurricane.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that wipes out evidence and DNA like floodwater. It's the nastiest possible water there is because everything's mixed in. And down in Houston, including alligators and fire ant beds that float as a whole hive on top of the water. So there's nothing that you can't do or you can do during a hurricane because something always goes wrong because it's a hurricane, right? It's like the old Greek story about I think it was a turtle that let a scorpion float across the river on top of his back, and at the end the scorpion still stung him, and the turtle asked him in the Greek story, "Why did you sting me? I'm a scorpion." Right?
Yeah.
It's a hurricane.
I think that was the frog and the scorpion, right?
As a frog and a scorpion. Thank you for knowing the story.
Yeah. No, yeah. I was looking it up to make sure because I wasn't positive.
I know. Well, it just came on top. I'm here with these Beavis and Butthead CIA guys. It just came up on top of my head.
Yeah. Okay, so you have the hurricane is this awful experience, but you have a really beautiful kind of life lesson or lived experience through it where you get to help and be a part of this movement. My question is kind of how you go from there to now writing about murder stories within hurricanes.
Okay, well, here's
what kind
the
of
story.
led you to that?
Here's the story. So for 40 years, I've been practicing law. And during that time, and you'll see this as you guys get older, and you probably have come across some of these people already. There are characters you come across that you cannot forget because they're different than everyone else. Mm-hmm. And the longer you go, the more you meet like that. And sometimes you meet people that are completely off any level of what everyone else is like. And I've met a few of those. And in my life, those were people that I thought, as I got to know them, this is someone I need to write about. Mm-hmm. And over time, I started trying to write about them. But I was busy practicing law, trying cases, raising a family. But when my youngest son left for college, he took me aside, put his arm around me and said, "Dad, you're running out of time. You need to finish the book." So I finished the book. And then that was Murder for Me. And it's a battle between an antagonist, a woman that is basically a psychopath, and I've known two, and they're like wolves and the rest of us are sheep. There are total different species in the rest of us. They prey on the rest of us. But there's also funny characteristics about psychopaths, if that's possible. One is they always have these plans, but they never execute complete plans. They never seem to work out the way real psychos plan. And it was so amazing. I wanted to put that in the book too. And I have a real battle in the book, a real chess match in real life between a detective that won't let go of trying to catch her and Marilyn, a psychopath that won't stop doing what she does.
Mm. Did you draw from any real cases, or did you kind of look for inspiration by diving through a bunch of different legal cases from the past?
I knew these people. I knew I would form characters out of people that I knew that I could never forget. Mm-hmm. And like my antagonist is emerging of two people that I met during my life that I couldn't forget. I was like a moth to a fire, though, because I couldn't stay away from them because they were so amazing. They were so different. And they were able to do things that you just couldn't believe that they could walk into a room and do. I had to write about that stuff. Yeah. And during the first book, the readers' responses were how can that be possible? How did that work? Why did she do that? And so the next book is, how is that possible? Why did she do that? Who is she really?
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much. As we're kind of coming near the end, is there anywhere you want to point our viewers to read more about your projects and your work?
Sure, they can go two places, russelllittleauthor.com. Just my name, author.com. And if they want to just kind of keep track of me, of what I'm doing as far as writing or appearing like on this show, they can go to my author Facebook page, Russell Stories. I tell stories. I talk about where I'm traveling, what I'm doing. I talked about this story before, about this show before. I'll probably tell a few jokes about it afterwards.
Yeah. Awesome.
About the two CIA dudes.
Well, thanks so much, Russell. I really appreciate you stopping by, and I hope you have a great day.
You guys have a great day, too.
Thanks, Russell.
Bye.
Sure.
All right. Rolling on through. Up next, we've got Maria Alexander. Going to go ahead and add her to stage. Maria is a two-time Bram Stoker award-winning author who is here to talk about how spiritualism sparked American feminism in the 19th century, and is also available to answer any questions our audience might have about writing horror. Hello, Maria. How are you?
Hey.
Oh, we got you muted. Oh, hold on. I think I can actually unmute you. No, I can't. You're muted right now, Maria.
Well, does
Okay.
that help?
Yeah, there we go. That helps a lot. I can hear you a lot better.
Sorry about that. Hey, thank you guys for having me on. John, it's always so wonderful to see you.
Likewise.
You are. Anyway, so here I am. I'm working on my latest book. It's a horror thriller called The Ascension, and it's about this teenage girl whose family are assassins, but they don't take their orders from like living people. They take them from the spirits of the dead, the people who have been wrongly killed. Or so they say. And so this character, Leah, she's realizing that she needs to bring down this whole system, that innocent people are dying instead of, wicked people, so to speak. And I thought that, I would tie the whole thing it's tied into mediumship and the background of spiritualism. And as I was researching spiritualism, I discovered it was a religion that actually kind of started in the 18th century, but it's in the 19th century that it really comes to the surface. We've got, mediums and seances, and we've got Mary Lincoln Todd, she is really into, she loses a son in the Civil War. And so she gets a medium to come to the house so they can communicate with her dead son. And, of course, President Lincoln was on that too, was listening too. So, but a really interesting thing happened at that time where it was the Victorian era, and women were not allowed to speak publicly. What I discovered in my research was that the only women that were allowed to speak publicly were mediums.
Mm.
And that spiritualism became the first female-led religion in the United States. And also that a lot of women who were mediums were also hugely influential feminists as well, because they could say first of all, if you were just saying if you're saying, oh yeah, this dead guy is talking through me and he's saying stuff, you can say anything you want.
Yeah.
No one's going to think that's coming from you. Yeah. If you're a woman, right?
Yeah.
You say, oh, this dead statesman from Greece in, 200 BC, is telling me that free love is the way to go, that women should be able to love whoever they want. That's one thing. But when you start saying it like Victoria Woodruff did, she was super successful woman, female mediums. They could make their own money. They didn't have to get married. They had status. They had, it's just really crazy. I found all these historical documents, all of these historians writing about this, authors like Midori Kawa and Dr. Grant Shreve, sorry. And I was just stunned. I had no idea. And so I've given this talk once already here in LA. I've been invited down to San Diego to give a talk about this. I think it's an extremely important part of feminist history that people don't know about, and for the most part. And also, I'm hoping I'm going to work it into my book somehow. I want it to be in there. What an incredible find, right?
Yeah.
And to not be able to use that. I will use it, but yeah. So, that was mainly what I wanted to talk about. Did you guys have any questions about that? Like, we talked about it a little bit before, but was there anything?
I'm blown away by that. There's just so much out there. There's so much rich history that hasn't been uncovered or explored yet. It just blows my mind. It reminds me of, Mallory O'Meara's phenomenal book about the Creature from the Black Lagoon controversy.
That's a great book.
That was just put under cover for decades, that Millicent Patrick was actually the woman who designed the creature. And because she went out on the tour and everyone loved her because she was charismatic and fun, the head art director put the kibosh on her. And it's just like, OMG, right? Like these things over the years have happened like that. But it's just amazing that this history now is being uncovered and shared so widely. I love it. And I really do hope that your research ends up in a book or multiple articles. I love that you're doing presentations too. And I hope we have links to those presentations that we can share with everybody.
Soon.
So unbelievable.
Soon. It wasn't recorded, but I thought I'd give people a taste here. And I'm going to write up an article. I'm hoping to get it published. I'm not sure exactly where. Maybe Lightspeed or Nightmare Magazine would want to hear about this, because I mean, it's such a trope of horror, right? The seance. Like, I remember seeing Masterton's what is it? That old movie with Tony Curtis and the Manitou, and they're all sitting around that table, you know, and then they're having that seance, and then that Native American person, a character's head comes up through the table and he's talking in Latin, and which was weird. I mean, the whole thing was weird. We were watching that as kids, and my mom actually said to me, "Don't memorize those words," because she thought they were real magic words to make the head of an indigenous person come up out of a table. I don't know. I had a wacky childhood, but honestly, like, it'll come up. I'll probably, you know, write up an article and give it to the usual suspects to see if they're interested in it, because I think it's really important.
Yeah. Have you ever and like, I guess they're kind of tangentially related, but have you ever looked at the feminism ties in early, like, witchcraft and stuff as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's a really like, there's a lot, I would imagine a lot more kind of out there about that too, but I just think that that's a really fascinating part of history too, that's like kind of similar in a way, where it's like a lot of it was just like women feeling empowered, and they were like, that's wrong.
Well, or just women that they hated. You know, like a lot of people say, and I'm very woo, by the way. I'm super woo. Like, I'm a pagan, I'm a witch myself. But I firmly believe that most of the women, if not all of them, that were killed back then were not witches.
Oh yeah.
At all. Absolutely. Had nothing to do. It was just men who just wanted to hurt them. And, you know, they needed, and the community needed a scapegoat, and it was okay to hurt women back then. So that's kind of, and I had a real visceral reaction we were just in Edinburgh last year, and there's a fountain at Edinburgh Castle, and where they have this like memorial to all the women who were burned at the stake, and they talk about them as if they were all witches, and I'm like, that's kind of wrong.
That's hilarious. Like, to still be doing that, like. That's wild.
Those wacky Scots. I won, so it's okay. But you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's so wild. I find it just so funny to hear, though, that like mediumship was such a protected trait when witchcraft was like a scapegoating, like immediate crime.
Well. But think about it, though. Like, around the time that it started, we're talking like the early 1800s, just just before the Civil War. And when you have 500,000, I think it was like actually 600,000 people died in the Civil War. There was a lot of grief. A lot of people wanting to talk to their loved ones. And now it wasn't, and when you think about things like talking to the dead and like Ouija boards, for example, Ouija boards were not considered satanic until much later in history. We're talking into the 20th century. Okay, we're talking about when after The Exorcist, then Ouija boards were bad.
Right, yeah.
People did not consider them evil or tools of the devil or anything like that back then. So it was actually considered a religion that was kind of compatible with Christianity.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
We are coming up on time, but we had a quick audience question I wanted to run by you real fast. Sure. When writing horror, how much does your setting need to, quote, be a character in your story?
100%.
100%.
100%.
Yeah.
In the other book, Snowed. This is one this one's set in Oak County, California. And Oak County is this really backward kind of red county in California. It's based on where I grew up. And I mean, it is the whole setting. Like it's out in the woods, and it's super creepy out there, and like it is everything. I mean, it is part of why things happen. You know, it plays as much a part. It's as much of a plot point setter as any particular person or event in the book.
Awesome. Well, we just hit time, but real quick, where can people find you?
Come to my website, mariaalexander.net or .com, whatever you remember. And you will be able to sign up for my Substack, which has been lately, it's been going viral. I don't know why. Don't ask.
Awesome.
You can find my blog posts there. Also, some have gone viral. And you can come to my Facebook and my Blue Sky. Just Google my name. You'll find me in all those places.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much,
Instagram.
All of them.
Thanks, John.
You bet. Very excited.
Guys.
Bye, Maria.
Thank you. That was great.
Bye.
All right. Awesome. And we are going to move right on now to Gina Cavalier. Ooh, I almost just clicked the wrong person. Hi, Gina.
Hi.
Gina is an author, artist, and filmmaker, and she is here to share her journey of overcoming suicidal ideation and deciding to teach helpful techniques to the world. She is also going to teach us a brief grounding exercise, which I'm very excited for. So hello, Gina.
Hi, you guys. Hi, everybody. And everybody was so wonderful today. I wanted to say thank you to the organizers, the authors, and all the supporters here today. I know this can be a heavier topic. So just to start off, I'm also I'm a fiction writer and a nonfiction writer because stories saved my life, literally. And as I healed and I got to the point where I no longer had suicidal ideation, I really wanted to share it with the world. And I created a book that I wrote with a trauma-informed therapist, Surviving Suicidal Ideation, right here. And it's just my mission to help bring levity to the subject so people can start communicating, talking, and so we can recognize signs with our tribe and our loved one and our community around, with our eyes open, our hearts open, filled with love, and help bring those people that are really actually suffering. So there.
Fantastic. Yeah, I really appreciate you telling us about that. Talk with us a little bit more about your journey overall. What kind of brought you to the point of the book, I guess?
Well, I wanted to be a writer my whole life, but I didn't really have the education, and I had a traumatic background. So I just felt worthless and that I was never going to reach my goal. So I would put it far, far away from my ideals that it was going to happen in my life. But something kept drawing to me. I just love stories. I love film. And as I started to heal, and I actually left the entertainment industry. You know, I was working at Warner and Disney and all those things, and I was suffering greatly. And I wanted to really heal, went on this journey of healing. And literally, I mean, it did take a long time. It took commitment and all those other things, but things just started to fall into place. And I realized I kind of reprogrammed my mind away from ever wanting to harm myself. And I wanted people to know that can happen, because a lot of people don't talk about it, that this can actually be healed. And if it's not you, maybe there's someone in your circle who might be suffering. So maybe how to recognize warning signs. So we created this book, Surviving Suicidal Ideation. So if people didn't want to talk to anybody, this is basically a workbook. They could go through the program. They could go through the meditations. And there is a doctor, Dr. Amelia Kelly, who wrote it with me. So there's clinical advice, not just my lived and healed experience. And I used energy to transform the things that were really hurting me and harming me, so I could go back to love, so I could heal when I was in those bad places. And at a moment's notice, that I put all the control into my hands. And I had to do that so I could live a healthier life. And now I get to, in my 50s, live a whole new life that I never thought was possible. And now I'm writing even more. I'm living my dreams as an author. I'm creating a whole franchise, fictional franchise, you know, like a Harry Potter-like series. I'm just creating now with full belief in myself, and that things will always fall into place no matter what is happening, conflict around me or the world. I can stand up, and I could take it in a different way that doesn't put me in danger.
Wow, that's a pretty remarkable story. And I love how you're going into other creative outlets as well. I'm really curious about that. Have they kind of informed each other? Like your nonfiction and your fiction, are there parallels between them by any chance?
Absolutely. You know, it's all about healing. It's all about morals of the story. It's all about getting to the evolution, the arcs of a character, and how you get out of things, how you change as a person, how you communicate. And definitely, I think they absolutely go together.
Wow, that's awesome. I think that, you know, I think when you're a writer and you're a storyteller, you know, they say everything's a story in life, right? So I think that it's great that I think that it's great that you're looking in all these different areas. And, you know, the other thing that struck me as you were talking is I think that books are born and they find people, and people find the books that they need. And I think it's great that you're putting these out there. I think it's, you know, it's something that may not be the most, you know, whatever topic, you know, it can be, you know, nerve-wracking or whatever to people, but I think it's really important to talk about it. And I think that what you're doing is pretty excellent. And cool. And how we have to do your grounding exercise soon too, right?
Yeah. So
I wanted to make sure we had time for that too. So we have 5 minutes.
Yeah, and it's just a really quick little thing that people can do. And if this isn't something that works for you, but maybe just stay and listen, because it might help someone that you know or love. Because the one thing that I wasn't often, and I realized, is I wasn't grounded. I was sort of all over the place because I was in my head a lot, and I had anxiety, and I had trauma, and I had PTSD. So how would I go ahead about doing this? Yes, you can go through therapy and all these different other things, but those are long kind of processes. What could I do right now in the moment that could put the control into me 100%? And for some reason, grounding works, and it works for all of my clients, and it's something that we perfect and do it over and over again. So I'm just going to quickly go through it. It's going to move really fast. There's going to be more information on my website, theliberatedhealer.com. I will also email it to you if you email me at gina@theliberatedhealer.com and want how to do this, I will email you the instructions. But you could just close your eyes or not close your eyes and just imagine this grounding cord coming off your hips. And the grounding cord I like to create, especially for people starting this, make it look like a tree, like a redwood tree or something strong, like an oak tree. And have it hollow on the inside and watch it grow and form and hit the ground and start to burrow through that beautiful earth that's supporting and loving you, and send it all the way. Just imagine it going through the crystal caverns and all the beautiful things of earth, all the way into the center of the earth, and just imagining it hooking on. And then just feel that grounding energy, and you will actually be more grounded through that. And then you can imagine letting all the things that are no longer serving you just swirl and twirl and go down that grounding cord. You can even throw things down, throw a situation down, throw an energy down, anything that's sort of, you know, frustrating you, or any resentment, any fears, any anxiety. Just imagine it go down, down, down. And then I imagine a giant golden sun over my head, and this golden light, I recall all this beautiful energy of love and light and all the happy stuff. And then I fill myself back up with that. So the idea is to release and let go, and then to fill back up. So remember that process, because if you just release but don't fill back up, you might feel a little unbalanced. But that's just my process. I do it the minute I wake up, and I do it often throughout the day.
I love that. That's great. We did have a question in our from our audience about the rates of ideation increasing in men as well. Have you looked into that? As obviously, I assume you've looked at the whole issue, but
yes, I do.
But yeah, do you have any kind of thoughts on that? On how
yes,
the numbers are spiking with men as well?
Unfortunately, so men are the most completed, women are the most attempted, and that's what's happening right now. So it is obviously a global phenomenon, and that's why bringing levity to the subject is so important. Because if we can't speak about it, how can we expect someone else to heal it?
Yeah.
And more often enough, when we talk about it, people just feel, gosh, I feel so much better. They find that their friends are feeling the same way and that they're not just alone. And there's a lot of resources in the book or online. And there's all kinds of ways to just get support. And, you know, I want people to know that I've healed this in myself. And if you are feeling that way, you don't have to live the rest of your life like that. It's getting to the point where I can't even barely remember those moments anymore. I'm getting healed. I'm still continuing my healing. And I just want to share that with people because I never thought that that was possible. And so that's why it was such a big mission of mine.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Well, we're coming up at the end of our time here. I know that you've mentioned some things already, but can you walk us through the different places that our viewers can go and support and learn more about your work?
Yes, and thank you. Gina Cavalier, theliberatedhealer.com. And if you need anything on there, I'm also on the Instagram and all the other places. You can just type in Gina Cavalier and see all my socials. I also have my art website, which is a way that I use my creativity to release some of my suffering. Art is such a beautiful thing. And just wishing you all well and have a happy holiday. And thank you again to everybody who joined us today.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great day, Gina.
Thank you so much.
Bye, guys. Thank
Bye.
you, John. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. And coming up next, we've got Bjorn Leeson. Hi, Bjorn. Bjorn is the author of Outside the Thalspar series and is going to talk with us today about his joy of building characters. And he wants to include lots of them, lots of characters, shattering the rule of restricting stories to just 7. Hi, Bjorn. How are you today?
Wow. Doing good. Doing good. How are you guys doing?
Awesome.
Doing great. Yeah.
Gotta love the book fest.
Yeah.
This has been fun. This is the first time I've been to anything like this, and there's a lot of people. I didn't realize how many people were going to be involved in this. I haven't been able to watch it from start to finish, but I've been in and out quite a bit. A lot of interesting people. I mean, there's all different backgrounds, all different viewpoints. Everyone's got kind of their own angle they're coming from. It's fascinating if you're a little bit of a studier of humanity, like I like to do.
Cool. I like that term. Studier of humanity. What a great term for an author. Right?
Kind of have to be, I guess, right?
When you're doing it right. Right?
Oh, yeah. But kind of in a way, you mentioned that I like to build character. That is my favorite part of writing, and this is a good petri dish of what I'm talking about. I read somewhere when I started writing a while back, when I started writing fiction fantasy, was that you should restrict your story to 7 characters. Yeah, you can't do that. That's not life, is it? I mean, look at the book fest. You've got got to be 100 people involved in this at least. So if you're writing a story and you want it to be expansive and you want it to be detailed and realistic, then you've got to do more than 7. So that's what I did. I did dozens. Now, you don't see them all at the same time, of course. It's a series of books, but it's indicative of life, and that's kind of where I was trying to go with it, just like what we're seeing here on the book fest.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, John.
Can you tell us a little bit about your character development and creation process? How do you make them dimensional?
Pretty much, as you might have guessed, I'm old, so I've experienced a lot of different people in a lot of different situations, and it's almost as though you take a blank character, like little template. You take the little mannequin from the store and you set them there, and then you start picking out little bits of things you from your own experiences, people and you start patchworking it together, and you end up with this awesome character. Like the protagonist of my story is Mariel the doctor's daughter, and she's already physically unique because she's a Norse female warrior, but she's dark skinned with wild black hair and bright green eyes. So she's just not what you picture as a Viking. And then you throw in her personality, which is even more so unique because she's got these dozens of little quirks. She doesn't like odd numbers. She likes to eat round food. Just weird little things about her that make her endearing and make her human, make her not just a carbon copy of another character just like her somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah. Then you got Ingrid Stone Splitter, who's another character. She's Mariel's sidekick, so to speak. Now she is 6'6" and extremely muscular, and she even she's described as masculine looking. It's hard for her to get close to people because she's intimidating. They see her and they're like, they kind of stay away from her. And she's a warrior. That's what she does. She trains warriors and she leads warriors. But when Mariel and her begin to bond and they hang out together and go through their adventures together, she's very gentle and very kind-hearted, which you don't expect that out of someone that looks like this. So if you just I don't have much time to talk about it, but if you just take those kind of little patchwork bits of humanity that you see and experience and you apply them to these characters, if you have enough experiences in life, you can build dozens, and they'll all be unique and they'll all be different. And that's where I wanted to go with it. And I feel like it turned out pretty well.
Yeah. We have a question in from the audience. Says, editors often tell you to not create too many characters. How do you get around the gatekeepers?
Well, luckily my editor is very easy to work with. Yeah. So she kind of lets me run wild. I mean, she does throw up roadblocks when they need to be there, of course, but she does she does go through the entire thing before she makes a determination that something needs to be changed. She doesn't just run into the first thing and say, okay, you need to stop here and you need to do this. Mm-hmm. So she will say, okay, I followed it through, and at first I didn't like this, but once I saw where it was leading, it made sense, and I do like it now. Yeah. So I didn't really get a lot of blowback. Luckily, my story it's a series of books. The third one just came out. It's going to be a total of 7, as it turns out. Wow. It started out as a short story, ends up being 7 full-length novels. So go figure how that works. But the entire story expands over 1,124 years. So you got to figure that's a lot of time to fit in lots of characters.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's yeah, there are a lot of movies like that. I was trying to think of one specific one, but it was going to take me too long.
So like Star Wars or Lord of the Rings or any of the epic fantasies,
right? Now, of course, the writing isn't a solid 1,124 years worth of story. I mean, there's gaps of centuries, right. But the beginning of it's 800-ish AD, and the end of it's World War II, 1944. So,
how do you thread all that time together into a cohesive, single series?
Oh, very carefully, and that's lots of layers, yeah. And what I was shooting for was making it realistic, making it feel real, not like it's false. It is a wild fantasy, but it's very real. I don't know how the way I'm going to say this is going to sound kind of stupid, but it's a wild, realistic fantasy.
Yeah. No,
and a lot of that's because of the characters. The character, to me, and I've had a lot of feedback that says I'm right about this. A lot of the characters are just so relatable to us, in the real world here, that the wild fantasy aspect is a lot easier to digest because the characters are so relatable. So,
yeah, I think that's an important facet. For sure, you need the audience, the reader needs something to hang on to see themselves in, for sure. Mm-hmm. But I'm also curious about how you're building these worlds and making them realistic too, because I think it's easier said than done, to build a world that actually feels real, that you can feel it and smell it. So what is your process for world building?
Oh, I had to stick with science fiction fantasy, historical fiction fantasy, because love history, big history nerd. I'm a nerd about a lot of things, but history is one of my favorites. So you throw in, and I love the Viking era. And in future books, I kind of gave it away, but World War II is in books 2 and 3. There's a lot of World War II history. And this is all stuff I've always been I've always geeked over and checked out and researched, you know, so it was already in my brain. I just had to put it into a neat story that I was writing about these weird characters I'm writing. But future books, a little bit of a teaser. Two of them end up going back to the Viking era, and they're entirely set in the Viking era. But after that is Civil War era, United States. So you got that in there as well. But not just Civil War era. Actually, the war itself is a backdrop. It really has nothing to do with the story. It's more crime. It's New York crime during the Civil War era, mafia, if you want to term it that way. So it's a very layered story. That's where there's a lot of aspects.
Wow, that's awesome.
Do you have some kind of system for keeping track of all your characters? Do you have like a book you keep, or a whiteboard that's full of scribbles? Or
I actually keep because there's a lot of time involved. I keep an Excel spreadsheet that has from 800, and each line is another year, 800 down to 1944, which is where it currently ends now. Future books might be past that. And I've got the columns for each character, so I know when they were born, when they died, and I have all the notes off to the side to show when important things happened in the series, so I don't start violating stuff, you know. So yeah, I do have to keep a lot of notes. I do it on a computer, but I mean, I do keep a lot of notes. Yeah,
that's awesome. Well, we're running out of time here, but where can we point people to that are watching this and want to support or learn more about your work?
Absolutely. The hub for everything Thalspar is at thalspar.com. So it's THALSPARR.com.
Perfect. Oh, and actually, we got one question in under the wire since that was fast. Do you ever mess up and get a character's eye color mixed up?
I haven't yet. I don't think so. Not yet.
No, okay. Well, that's impressive too. I'm happy that we got to let you get that brag in just under the wire.
Unless whoever asked that realized I did do and I didn't know, and they're seeing if I'm going to figure it out. But no, I don't think so.
Time will tell. All right. Thank you so much, Bjorn. I really appreciate you dropping by.
All right. Thank you. It was great to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Bjorn.
All right. We are bumping into the end here. We got 3 left. Up next, we've got Reggie Ford. Reggie D. Ford is a best-selling author, motivational speaker, and will reveal the process of perseverance from perseverance through severe dysfunction, and will also share a heartfelt poem that encapsulates his life philosophies. How's it going today, Reggie?
It's going well. Thank y'all for having me. I appreciate you.
Likewise.
Sorry, my cat's getting in the way right now.
Oh, that's always a good sign when a cat does a meeting, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a good omen right there.
She heard that you were going to be sharing a poem and she got really excited.
Like, oh, Reggie's going to do a poem. I'm there. It's awesome.
Did you want to start with the poem, or did you want to talk about the poem first and then we can close with it?
I want to close with the poem, but the poem, again, is about life philosophy. So different nuggets that I've picked up along the way that I feel are guiding principles through just my life. And some of them are very simple. It's a simple poem. There are things that I think we probably overlook or neglect throughout our daily lives because we're rushing and we're running and we're distracted, but some simplicity to bring us back to the present and ground us. Yeah,
I love that. We actually have a question coming in from the audience that says, transitioning from finance to mental health advocacy is quite a shift. What personal experiences motivated you to make this change, and how do you blend those two passions to make your work or in your work?
Yeah, I think so. Mental health advocacy and finance kind of go hand in hand for me because I grew up in a situation where, money was a big stressor. Money caused anxiety, caused depression, caused a lot of grief. And so to have a better understanding and better finances made mental health better. But I grew up with the mindset that money, because it was such a vital resource, once you had it, that all the other issues would go away. And that wasn't the case. And I saw that in my own life. And so I I saw the whole human, the whole picture of it all, and that wellness that wasn't just financial wellness, wasn't just occupational wellness. It was creative wellness. It was spiritual wellness. It was, emotional wellness. It was all these different facets of our well-being. And so that's where the piece shifted when I realized that finance is only a small portion, a big portion at a time, but once it becomes a smaller portion of the pie, that other things have to be addressed.
Absolutely. Yeah. I have actually another one too from the audience. Do you think our society, they're really interested. Do you think that our society is seeing an increase in PTSD?
I think our society is becoming more aware around what PTSD is and what it looks like. I mean, it's a recent diagnosis if you think about it in the grand scheme of things. Like 1980 wasn't that long ago. And so with it being recently able to be diagnosed, and then people understanding that it's not just military combat, that trauma is a spectrum and trauma is relative. Trauma for a 2-year-old is dropping their ice cream cone and they have a temper tantrum. Like, that's the worst thing that little 2-year-old body and mind has felt. But it's different for everybody and every person. And so everyone in this entire world has, in my opinion, has experienced some trauma, and that trauma doesn't always manifest into PTSD, but it can. And I think that the awareness and understanding of how it presents is becoming more known, and that's what is leading to maybe a greater increase in the diagnosis.
Yeah, that's true.
Sorry, you go ahead, John, if you had something.
Oh, I just going to comment that you're right about the recent diagnosis. I mean, even, postpartum depression is a very new concept. I mean, I think the first person that really brought it to the mainstream was Brooke Shields, and that was in the 90s.
Yeah.
And, even if we talk about, other mental health, manic depression was a go-to term for decades, and then they changed it to bipolar. Now I think they're changing it to something else. So it's interesting how the world is kind of learning about the human mind. And I think the nice thing is that it's not as stigmatized as it once was. And I think that people are talking about this, and it's not something that's hushed about and pushed into the corners like in a Gothic fiction book or something, openly, and people are living rich lives. And I think it's amazing. So what you're doing too, I think is really, exciting. So thank you for that, for bringing that. That's really cool.
Yeah, I like to hear that the conversation around PTSD is exciting, because I think it helps to heal. It helps people heal. Like when we don't have the conversations, when we continue to stigmatize it, then people live in shame that whatever they're going through, whatever they're feeling is bad. And that's just not the case.
Yeah. Yeah. And, to go back to your point of realizing that it doesn't require military combat to get PTSD, there's a lot more of a understanding with that too as well, where I feel like in the past it used to be people would always respond like, I can't possibly have, and you would have to be like, you literally just shut down fully because of a trigger. Like, that's what it is.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. You can see it. You can see those triggers. You can see the responses. The nervous system is going to react. It's going to do what it needs to do to protect our bodies, or what it thinks it needs to do to protect our bodies. And it shows up, and we see those things.
Yeah. We actually have another question coming from the audience that wants to know about the painting behind you.
So that's a great question. I am in Adrian, Michigan right now at a school, Adrian College. And so I'm in the library. I snuck in here. And it's a 2006 graduate, I think. Jillian Dumday, I think. So shout out to her.
I mean, that's a sick painting.
So follow her. It's Dumdei if you need that last name. So I do not know this person, but it's an amazing painting. I thought this was the coolest room because of that painting. So
yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I'm not too far away from you, actually. I'm in Michigan too, so
cool.
We're in similar places right now.
Nice.
So let's see, kind of focusing on mental health and kind of keeping the conversation there. How do you feel like the conversation has evolved around mental health in men specifically?
Yeah, I think this is something that I pride myself on and want to continue to push for is men addressing their mental health, because I think growing up, if you're, you know, 90s baby or 80s baby or older, it's to hide your emotions. Even younger, I would say all kids are growing up. Boys are taught to hide their emotions. Boys are taught that crying is weak and for girls, and girls to an extent that some of those things are bad. But boys get it in a different way, that we're supposed to be masculine and manly, and though and masculine and manly doesn't equate to emotional. But I view emotional as human, like we are humans, and so to be human is to be emotional. And so I think more men are approaching their mental health like their physical health. They are coming at it from an angle of understanding that, you know, we see rates of depression, anxiety, other different types of mental health affecting men, and wanting to address those things so that they aren't suffering. Like, I think people are understanding that their minds contribute to their suffering and want to start to find a better place in their own mind.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I just wonder, Reggie, how long is your poem? Because I know we're getting up to
it's about 2 minutes long, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. If you could go ahead and get that started then.
Yeah.
And actually, if you want to go ahead and quickly hit us with where people can find you too.
Oh, yeah. So
we can close out with the poem and say goodbye to you right
Absolutely. Now. So if you look right, where am I? There, Reggie D. Ford on all your favorite platforms, and reggiedford.com. So I'll make it easy for you to find me. But the poem, it is, I talk about the process of perseverance. It's from pain to passion, passion to purpose, purpose to power, power to peace. And it's acknowledging the pain. It's not sweeping it under the rug. It's acknowledging it's feeling it, and it's going through that process so that you ultimately get to this desired destination of peace and fulfillment in your life. But the poem is about being present, because right now is all we have, because the past no longer exists and the future never was. Right now, this is it. And people ask me what I do, why I do it, and this is what I tell them. I get on stages and write books about my pain and my past so that other people don't have to feel them, because the pain from my past does not dictate the present, and the fear of the future only worries me if I let it. All I have is now, a moment to share with you, to tell you about my past and all the things I went through, abused and neglected, a lot that's hurt me, but I rise above it, and you all can too. Just keep working. Take your losses and turn them into lessons. Give grace and give back. That's the way to many blessings. Speak with conviction and love with no conditions. Stand tall, stand proud, and unlearn unhealthy traditions. Follow your passion and believe in your vision. Fall in love with the process and stay firm in your intentions. And trust that the results and the peace will be a byproduct of the work. And please don't bottle up emotions, because as we know, bottles can burst. Create the life you choose to live. Surround yourself with those you love. Give thanks for every breath and linger with every hug. For all we have is now, this moment, this day. Spread light and love everywhere you go, and tell people that's the Book Fest way.
I love that. Thank you, Reggie. I appreciate it so much. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank y'all. I appreciate y'all so much.
You too. Thank you. That was awesome.
We even got a Book Fest shout out of that one. That's
great. That was cool.
All right. Up next, we've got DC Gomez. DC is an award-winning. Hello. DC is an award-winning author and podcaster, and is here to share tips for crafting Let me try this again. We'll share tips for crafting an action-packed adventure within a supernatural setting, along with her journey, and will also be available for any audience questions if anyone's got some. So hello, DC, and welcome.
Hello, gentlemen. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to go after Reggie. That poem was like inspiring. Great shout out at the end. I was impressed. So hello.
Yes.
So you guys ready to talk about urban fantasy with me for a little bit?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
one of the things that I write mostly, I do multi-genre everything, but one of my passions is urban fantasy, and we're getting ready for Halloween. So I figure we'll discuss a little bit of the magical world that we have. So let's talk about it. So what is urban fantasy? Most people want to know. So think of the supernatural world embedded in the common day. So things of like the Sandman. So if you think of the shows that are popular now, most people don't put them in categories of urban fantasy, but they are. You got Lucifer, even Harry Potter at the beginning, has a little bit of that urban fantasy. So urban fantasy is very common, but most people don't identify it. Most people are thinking when it comes to the book world as reverse, romance, paranormal. Urban fantasy can have low story, is not known specifically for that, but we're looking at all those everyday things. If you have the real world. So I'm going to share, I have a series, I have a new book out. So Cursed by Fur. So I know I'm going to give you guys a plug. You said I could bring the book.
Yes. No, great.
So Cursed by Fur, and it's probably the best way to explain it. It is taking place right now. So in the book, it takes place next week during Halloween. So it's very current. And it's a spicy retelling of Little Red Riding Hood. So you're taking things that we know and just kind of twisting it around. How do we spin it? How do we turn it into the acts? So I have everything from vampires, because we got to shout out to some vampires. You have werewolves that are being killed and, destroyed. And Little Red is not the good one. So one of the things about it is you still have really basic structure of the universe. Like I'm not going to get rid of gravity. It is taking place in common days. But what you can do is add a layer of, what is it that the universe doesn't know? So for this series, we're assuming the humans do not know about the supernatural. So my characters actually are the interns for death. So if you believe in the four horsemen, what do they do while they wait for the apocalypse? Well, death ushers people to the next life. What does pestilence do? Well, trying to destroy us with diseases. So that kind of the world that you add. Do you guys have any questions? So you can tell I can talk fast.
I just want to say I love that title, Cursed by Fur. Oh my God, I love it. And that cover is gorgeous.
This is actually part of a whole series for anybody who likes Kickstarter. There's a whole Kickstarter for Gorgeous. It is actually the Once Upon a Curse series, which is amazing. And it's all retellings. What do you know about, retellings if you twist them? So yes, this is kind of, has little paw prints for anybody who wants to see. Super fun.
I love it. I love it. What drew you to urban fantasy as a storyteller? Okay.
I'm going to tell you that I fell in love with urban fantasy reading Kim Harrison's books, because she does the Hollow series, Jim Butcher, and then you add the amazing Miss Charlene Harris, who does small town like nobody else. So I wanted to do something in a small town. I live in a small town in East Texas. So how do I give you a shout out to a small town in Texarkana where nothing happens? Well, what happens if the whole supernatural world moves to you? And this is what you get in urban fantasy.
Oh, that's so fun. That's so fun. Yeah, and that's ripe territory right there. Also, Joe R. Lansdale. There's a lot of great storytellers coming out of that area of Texas. What's going on in that area of Texas, DC?
We're busy. Either that or it's too hot to be outside.
I think these books are fiction. That's what I think. I think they're really happening.
John, you're not supposed to tell people that. That's our secret. Come on now.
But yeah, that's cool. That's cool. So you have werewolves. What other kind of creatures and monsters do you have in your books?
So for this series, I'm taking everybody back. So the beginning of this series used to be Death's Intern and the Intern Diary. So you got introduced to the concept that Texarkana, because I'm in East Texas, has become a haven. So every supernatural world has finally found a home. So I have a Pipsy who happens to be Pete the Pitsy, who actually runs the mayor run. So if you get in trouble, you're going to get Pitsy by Pete. So be careful about that. So you get gnomes, you get dwarves, you get an actual community. So the goal is not to have every supernatural in the world running wild, but what if they're trying to actually have a life? How do you have a life? So my interns are trying to run a city without getting harassed by the humans and trying to how do I have a census? How do I know who's in town? How do I run a city of people who have more power than they should and can actually, destroy an entire world and be able to give them some consensus? So this is what you get in this entire madness. It does have a really, crazy twist, so be prepared. You might cry, you might laugh, you might actually get really mad at me. Sorry, not sorry.
I hope
It's
I do
gonna be
all three.
You probably will, and you can send me some hate message, Gordon. Like, listen, we need to talk. I've been getting a lot of those messages. Like, I was not prepared for that. I was like, that's a great thing. It's like, I've been thinking about this book. It was like, it's a great thing. They're like, no, 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 no. So yes.
Well, you just need to inform them that whether or not they like it, it still means that you win if they're thinking about it.
Going to give you the one thing everybody asks about triggers. This is a thriller, which is kind of the best part about urban fantasy because you can mash up different genres. So you get a serial killer / assassin, if you want to call it that way, depending which way you're looking at it. So you have these elements that you can use with a fantasy world without being limited to just fantasy. So that's kind of the fun part about urban fantasy.
Right. In your books, how much of real life is kind of like explored, like and real world topics and things? I think that you have such a great canvas there that you've built. Do you ever like kind of incorporate some real world sort of metaphors and things like that?
The best part about it is you can have a social commentary without sounding preachy. And that's always been my thing. Like, I never want to sound preachy. I never want to be commenting. So Des Intern, the first comment was about homelessness. You know, how do we deal with homelessness in our society? So one of the things that the team has done is that they made the entire community of transient individuals as part of their underground way. You know what I mean? So they're underground. They're the spies. They're the informants, because we tend to take people for granted who we don't see on the same level as we do. So you do have an undercurrent. If you get it, great. If not, you're going to be highly entertained anyways. But you have those different levels for any sport.
That's exciting. So I'm in a bookstore. I've never read a D.C. Gomez book. Which one would you tell me to grab first?
So if you're interested in current, I will tell you, go ahead, pick up Curse by Fur, because it's going to get you into the universe. If you had to read in order, I would say go back and pick up Des Intern. So that's the catch. So I do lots of fun, action-packed, quirky characters. I even have a talking cat. So, you know, Gordon, I'm checking out your cat in the back. I was like, oh, so I'm having a moment.
Yeah,
so
she's running wild because she knows I can't do anything about it. She's not supposed to be on that counter, but
it's called Rogue. It's called Rogue. I am Rogue, and I'm on TV, and there's nothing you can say about it.
Yeah. And as soon as you said assassins and serial killers, she jumped up onto that ledge.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, there they go. There it goes.
She's
trying to protect
They
you.
know. They know.
Yeah. That's kind of the catch.
Awesome. So what is your writing and development process like for these books? You have this vast kind of world you're working with. How do you like deal with that? And how do you develop new books and stories and ideas?
I made a purpose and conscious decision that anything that was going to be urban fantasy was going to take place in the same series. So this is the Reaper's universe, which is because creating a fantasy universe takes time, and creating laws and ideas. So I'm like, we're going to stick to one. I do contemporary. I have dark humor. I have, I'm a cat lady terms arms dealer. So for anybody who wants a little bit more quirk and madness, and that's contemporary, super fun. So yes, John is like, what was that? So yes. So I told you, I write quirky and fun. So, but for the fantasy part, I'm very much staying within the same universe. So all the rules are the same. So people can jump in and out and be able to enjoy this without having to learn a whole magical elements and kind of background and philosophy. And one thing about it is, because it's urban fantasy, you understand the current world. You understand the rules and regulations. And if you happen to be around Texarkana, which a lot of people have, you're like, oh, that could happen.
Yeah.
I get that a lot.
Real quick before we go, what's a good place that we could point viewers to if they want to learn more or support your work?
Absolutely. Check out my website. It's probably the easiest way to get my socials, which is dcgomez-author.com. Easiest way to find anything. I am on social media, probably not as active as I should. Trying to get engaged on TikTok, but TikTok is, I get lost in cat videos and not so much the posting of author stuff, but I'm trying. Like, listen, I'm committed to being much better at it, but yes, it's a little harder than I thought.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, DC, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
And we're going to go ahead and move you on out of here, but I hope you have a great night.
Thank you. That was fun.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. And last but not least, we have returning hero of the show.
Are you ready?
Stephen Joseph. Hi, Stephen. How are you?
Hi. I didn't know it's a returning hero. I didn't know it's a hero.
Stephen is an award-winning author of Snoodles in Space and is here to read an excerpt from his latest book, Snoodles in Space 2, Episode 2, The Zoodles Strike Back. This is actually a book that we have ready to present everyone. And so Stephen is going to close us out with a little bedtime story. How's it going, Stephen?
Oh, it's going great. I'm ready for bedtime.
Yeah.
You're gonna read? Are you gonna read me the story? Oh, I have to.
Oh no. I'm on slides. So
okay. No. I know. I read the story. No. I understand the rules. I was just kidding.
Yeah.
So just so everybody knows, this is I came out with Snoodles, Cadoodles, Poodles, and lots of noodles. Snoodles in Space, the Snoodle, the Zoodle, Cadoodles, and One Happy Schmoodle. And this is the third book, Snoodles in Space, Episode 2, The Zoodles Strike Back. So this is the third book in the series. And I will start reading. Of course, it's like all the other books. It's a wackadoodle tale from outer space. The story happens in the future, in the land of Noodleham. How far in the future? Nobody knows. The sky was always blue. The air was always clean. Everybody was happy because of the invention of the Snoodle. This was the brainchild of Herbie Snoodleman. The Snoodle was a car that ran on noodles. The Snoodle also provided a delicious bowl of noodles after a long day of school or work, and all of Noodleham became not Snoodle, but noodle obsessed. Previously on Snoodles in Space, the Snoodle replaced the Krautmobile, which had been the most used mode of transportation. The Krautmobile was invented by Herbie's brother, Sauer Krudelman, and while it was a reliable mode of transportation, it ran off sauerkraut, which made everyone pretty stinky and rather cranky. Sauer's Krautmobile business quickly went kaput, but he became popular once again with the invention of the prickly peppered purple propulsion-powered pickle. This special pickle, when inserted into a Snoodle Zoomadoodle, allowed for space travel 10 times the speed of light. This allowed for the exploration of galaxies far, far away. A regular prickly peppered propulsion-powered pickle allowed the Snoodles to also become flying machines, which allowed people to go to places in no time at all. This particular pickle also helped save Herbie and Sauer's brother, Norman Noodle, whom, with his wife, Sally Strudel, ran the Noodle to Strudel Bakery. Norman and Sally was abducted by the Zoodle Cadoodles from the planet Zoodle to perform brain surgery on their leader, Cloodle, the Grand Roodle. With the help of Norman and Sally's two kids, Ricky Rockadoodle and Brianna Brainy Broodle, they repaired the Zoodle Cadoodle spaceship and repaired Cloodle, the Grand Roodle's brain. Cloodle, you see, had come down with a bad case of genius brain. The Zoodle Cadoodles also placed vacuodoodles around the Earth to vacuum up all the Earth's noodles, which were removed after the successful repair of the spaceship in Cloodle's brain. The Zoodles had wanted to take the gang back to Zoodle to provide training for the Zoodles to last 100 years. However, after Doodle Cadoodle attempted to put Schmoodle the Poodle back onto the Snoodle Zoomadoodle because of the Zoodle's strict no-pet policy, Schmoodle did a happy dance, causing a cloud of sauerkraut fumes to appear, and the Zoodle Cadoodles quickly fell asleep. Everyone made it safely back to Noodleham. Ricky and Brianna were heroes for saving the planet and were given the keys to the city. Did I say that everyone was happy? Well, not everyone. There was one family that wasn't doing too well. Before the invention of the Krautmobile, people would drive in a Grudelmobile or the Grudel, as it was unaffectionately called. This was invented by Grumpy Grimy Grudelman. The Groodle ran on gruel. What is gruel, you may ask? Nobody knew for sure, but everyone had one word for it: yucky. It smelled bad, caused gray clouds to appear above, and the townspeople looked rather gray. The zoodle would burn the gruel to run, but there was nowhere to put the burnt gruel. Sadly, the burnt gruel was dumped into the rivers, lakes, and oceans, causing the water to turn gray. Grumpy, grimy Grudelman had 2 kids. His son was Frimpy, Frumpy, Fruital, and his daughter was Wimpy, Whiny, Woodle. Being the wealthiest man in Noodleham at the time, Grumpy, Grimy spoiled his kids rotten. When Frimpy, Frumpy, and Wimpy Whiny were a bit younger and the Groodle was still selling like hot noodle cakes, the kids had a special present from their dad, Grumpy Grimy. It was a special tour of the Chunky Chockadoodles Candy Factory. And we stop over there because things happen after this factory didn't go all too well, and things... Of course, the Zoodles strike back, which is a terrible thing.
But yeah, you can't give it away on here. You know, they gotta they gotta buy the book to see the Zoodles strike back.
That's right. Yes.
You know, that was noodle-rific. I mean, thank you.
Honestly, I think that takes a tremendous amount of courage to read that book out loud on camera. That was a lot of tongue twisters to say in a row.
I practice it a little. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We actually had a question from the audience under asking how you do that without getting tongue-tied.
Well, writing these books, I say I don't write the books, I run the books. I'm a runner, and I go out running for hours, and then like these words pop in my head, and sometimes characters start talking, and then you play with it. And then when you get it, and it's just like, oh, wow, that's another one. What can I come up with next? And it's just fun. It's like a game. And especially when you're running, and sometimes running, like, you think about the run. But when you have the characters talking to you, it's like, all of a sudden I'm in a different world. I'm not even knowing what I'm doing. I'm just like watching, listening, and taking notes in my head, and then I get to write it down. So I get a lot of practice with, and it's the 3rd book. I'm like the 4th book will come out next year, Escape from Zoodle Trash. So I've had a lot of practice with anything oodle, noodle, snoodle, doodle, cadoodle, poodle. So it keeps
Zoodle
coming.
Shank Redemption is coming up next.
That's good. I like that. Oh, wow.
Free of charge. Free. It's all you.
Okay.
That's great. So did the original idea for this come while you were running? And part 2 of that question is, while you're out there running, do you have to memorize these ideas, or do you capture them on a phone or something?
It's like dust. It's literally you have one speck of dust, and then the other dust gets attracted to it, and then you have a big dust ball. So once in this book, it's almost like a takeoff on Willy Wonka in the chocolate factory. So these kids, I'll give you a little bit more. Frimpy, Frumpy, Fruital, and Wimpy, Whiny, Woodle. Frimpy Frumpy has a fizzy wizzy Pop-a-Doodle. First he fits, and then he wits, and then he goes pop. And Wimpy Whiny Woodle has a swizzly twizzly Slime-a-Doodle. First she swizzled, then she twizzled, and then she turned it into a bucket of slime. And then, of course, the newspapers. And I was thinking when I watched Willy Wonka, you had all the media there, the media attention, cameras, the paparazzi. And you had those kids, the spoiled kids, they didn't turn out too well. So I want to make them the heroes. So also, okay, I have something. And of course they're getting shamed, and kids, call them the Frimpy Frumpy Pop-a-Doodle, they make fun of him. So, but they end up saving the planet, which is always a good thing.
Love a good underdog story.
Yes.
Stephen, where can some people find and interact and support with your work?
Well, you could find me in StephenJosephAuthor.com. And when you go there, there happens to be not only one blog, but two blogs. I have a blog on crankiness. I write a lot on crankiness. That's my brand. I'm also a lawyer, and I have a blog called The Defense Can Now Rest, because a lot of times the defense never rests. This time the defense can now rest, so I write about that, how they could rest. So, but you can also see my books, everything else, StephenJosephAuthor.com.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming and closing us out today, Stephen.
Well, it's a pleasure being here. Thank you.
It's a pleasure for you to be having me.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, have a great night, Stephen.
Take care.
Bye. There's a great show. John, do you have anything that you want to tell the listeners about you and your work? Anything that you want to point them to?
Yeah, sure. If you want to follow me, again, you can Google my name and you can put it into any of the social medias. I'm the only John Palisano, and also johnpalisano.com. It will tell you more than you ever wanted to know about me. So if you wanted to do that, that's where I'm at. I love the Book Fest. It's been an honor to be here today and to experience and to talk to all these great authors. And I do hope everybody will join us again tomorrow for day number 2. And thank you, Jay, for being amazing co-host and keeping everything on track perfectly. So thank you. And thanks to the team. There's a lot of people behind the scenes that are working. So thank you all to the social media team and everybody that works so hard throughout the year to put these on. It's so much work. And you make it all look so easy. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And thank you to the listeners and everyone who came. And good night. Yeah, we'll see you next time.